Bake the cake, hater. Or maybe not. It's going to depend on what the Supreme Court does with today's hearing. Hey, everybody. I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is the right angle on the gay wedding cake case. It's going before the Supreme Court today on Tuesday, December 5th, as we're taping these. Gents, Matt Walsh laid out the facts of this case pretty clearly on Twitter today. And I just want to run this by you real quick. Said Jack Phillips, that's the baker in Denver, just about 40 minutes north of me, was perfectly willing to sell a cake or any pastry to the gay couple. He just didn't want to decorate it with a gay wedding theme. He also refused to decorate Halloween cakes and divorce party cakes. I didn't know until today that divorce parties were a thing, but that's how out of it I am in my neck of the woods. Matt Walsh went on to say that, but this wasn't good enough. The victimized, that's in scare quotes, gay couple embarked on a years-long campaign to destroy him anyway. Not because they were turned away. They were not turned away, but only because Phillips couldn't decorate the cake how they wanted because of his First Amendment rights to express himself artistically. I'm talking about the baker now. Bill, this guy getting dragged through the courts for years on this thing just to defend his business and his religious beliefs. What does this tell you about the state of tolerance in the United States today?
Well, this is the most flagrant example of tyranny that I've seen in a long, long time. And this is the kind of thing that we're seeing a lot of, and one of the reasons why we're in such trouble we are in. The Constitution is well structured to provide us against government tyranny. It's done that pretty well, continues to do that pretty well. But the tyranny of the peer pressure, the tyranny of the social proof and the social mores, this kind of tyranny we were never expecting. The idea that these people could tell this guy what to do with his own bakery, does that mean if you're a 90-year-old Jewish baker and you've survived the Holocaust with your little wife and you've got the tattoos on your forearms, does that mean you have to deliver a swastika cake, to the Nazi rally down the street? Is that what that means? You have a right to run your own business or you don't. And if somebody doesn't want to sell me a cake because I'm a conservative commentator, that's their business. I'll find somebody else who will. So this whole thing is, to me, is just nuts. And here's what I think, Steve. I am hoping that the Supreme Court will basically just finally say, this is the First Amendment, right? It's not the 18th Amendment. It's not the 26th Amendment. It's the First Amendment. Freedom of religious belief. You have the freedom to practice your religion any way you see fit. That means you get to do what you want to do, believe what you want to believe, and you cannot be compelled either by the government or anyone else to do anything that's against your religion. It doesn't matter what you think of his religion. It's not your business. Go someplace else. My feeling is that if the Supreme Court basically rules that this whole thing is a violation of this man's rights, and I hope they do, I think the second, while the echo of that gavel is still reverberating through the hall, that baker ought to sue these people and sue them relentlessly for the destruction of his life. He ought to go after every penny they have. And he should get it too. Because this kind of thing is simple. It's a simple witch hunt. And I would go after the people who've been harassing this guy and anybody who may have backed those people financially to take this thing through whatever years it's gone through for however long it's been. It's the most egregious case of fascism that I've heard of. You're going to have to make this cake that's against your religious principles, and if not, we'll destroy you.
Yeah, it's just us. Now, there is some good news. Right before we started taping, I started looking into the news on this, and the case is before the Supreme Court right now as we're taping this. And Justice Kennedy, who's the swing vote on the court in a lot of these cases, and is seen as a key vote in the Masterpiece Cake Shop case, he appears skeptical of Colorado's stance. It's the state government that's trying to enforce, cake Nazism. He said in court today, "It seems to me the state has been neither tolerant or respectful of the baker's views. Scott,
this one had better be 9-0, or else we're in real trouble.
Yeah, well, don't count on that, Bill. I'm sure not going to do it. But Scott, one of my favorite lines of yours, and I can't remember which segment this was, but you said, Jesus is a big boy. He can take care of himself. So it's not Jesus that needs protecting in this case, but we're talking about a baker who's just been dragged through the mud on this for years. He does need some First Amendment protections, doesn't he?
Frankly, usually in a case like this, the aggrieved party has suffered some sort of harm. But it seems clear that the only harm that the aggrieved party suffered, the couple suffered, was generated in their own minds. Was the personal offense that they felt, the so-called shame and humiliation of being politely told that they'd have to go elsewhere if they wanted somebody to custom make a cake for their wedding. There was a sign I saw once in one of these stores. It's like a Salvation Army Goodwill store or whatever kind of junk store that I like to haunt, and it said, "We reserve the right to deny service to anyone for any reason," and I kind of love that. I mean, I sort of go along with Milton Friedman's argument that I saw once, where he was basically saying, let the bigots discriminate in their businesses. They'll be ostracized by the right people, and they'll shrink the size of their own markets. So if you think this is a bigoted act on the part of the cake baker, then what's the harm in letting him be bigoted? Just take all your gay cake business somewhere else. He'll lose that whole big part of the market. Now, that said, I don't primarily think that this is a religious liberty issue. I know that's the grounds upon which most people are arguing this. To me, I think it comes down to a question of public accommodation versus contracted work for hire. If you have a public accommodation, let's say a motel, and an African-American couple stops by in the middle of the night and needs a room to stay, and you deny on the basis of race their ability to stay there when you would rent it to anybody, you would lease that motel. If I stop by with my wife, I'd have access to it. That's one thing. It's a different thing when you're commanding a work for hire. Which is not something that generally is offered to everybody on an equal basis. So if somebody came to me and said, look, I see that you make TV shows on the internet. We now want you to make a show endorsing something that you don't believe in. So you're going to make this video for us. And you do that for Bill Whittle. So you certainly must do it for us. And I think that's a whole different thing. And this guy has two kinds of business that he conducts at his shop. He's got a walk-in business where people can come in and buy things retail. And he doesn't ask questions about their sexual proclivities when they come in. However, the other business is a work-for-hire business where he is performing, in essence, as an artist, as a contract performer. And if he says, I don't want to perform that, I don't want to participate in that performance, then I think he's totally got the right to do that. And like I said, I could argue that he's got the right in the other case to discriminate against anybody who wants to and see his business suffer the consequences. So to me, it comes down to, there's a Jesus thing here. There's a religious freedom thing here. But it really is this guy operating a public accommodation where everybody deserves equal access, or is he doing work for hire where he gets to pick who his clients are going to be?
Scott, that's a fascinating angle. It's just about 15 degrees off from where I settled on this one, and that is he wasn't discriminating on the basis of sex or skin color or religion or sexual orientation or any of the things that we've decided, I think, pretty correctly in law that we can't discriminate against in public accommodations. What he was discriminating against, if discriminating is the right word, and I'm not sure it is an activity, and that's very different. The example I wrote about earlier today is, let's say you own a diner and you're like me and you hate people who just chew their gum, just loud snapping, chewy gum. Chewy is just I hate that. And so you've got a sign on the door of your diner that says, gum chewing forbidden, gum chewers will be shown the door. And there's a Jewish guy sitting at the counter of your diner chewing away at his gum, so you point to the sign and you tell him to leave. Now, you didn't make him leave because he's Jewish. You didn't even make him leave because he was chewing while Jewish. You made him leave because it's against your policy. This activity is against your store's policy, and so you asked him to leave, and that is well within your rights. He did not, Jack Phillips, the Baker, he did not say, I won't do business with you because you were gay. What he said was, you are engaging in an activity that I cannot endorse with my art. It's a completely different thing, and if the Supreme Court decides anything else, boy, we need a new Supreme Court, don't we? And that is the right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. If you like what you see, click on over, become a member. We'd love to have you aboard. And for Bill and Scott, I'm Steve Green. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.